All right, guys, welcome back to Kitchen Senses. This is going to be lesson 5, and this lesson is going to be talking all about the rescued food chain. And so, obviously rescued food is a big piece of what we do and, ties into some of the lessons that we've learned earlier. And I hope something that you guys are starting to see is at the core of what we're doing. So, we're tracking waste through our Trim Sense food waste tracking program. We talked about healthy and sustainable eating in lesson 4 at our last lesson. And, hopefully we've given you a good foundation for some of the knife skills and just acclimation to the kitchen to be able to be comfortable to prepare some of these meals and to follow some of these recipes that utilize some of this amazing food that comes from this rescued food chain. And so to start, I want to just tell you guys a little bit about Loaves and Fishes and their community meal program. So Loaves and Fishes is guided by their vision that all people, regardless of their socioeconomic state, culture, religious, or ethical background, deserve their chance at a fair meal and basic needs, whether that's food, dignity, or respect. And so, that's a big piece of what we're doing here, and we're able to, as culinarians, bring that to life through food. And I think food speaks to a lot of people, and I'll let Kylie speak to that in just a moment. But just to give you an idea of just the gravity and how many meals a program like this can kind of do for the community and the impact that it can make. Loaves and Fishes actually increased their number of free, healthy meals that were served to the community over the last several years. In 2020 and 2021, we were able to get 4.4 million meals out to people in the local community that feature rescued, sustainable food with healthy ingredients and healthy recipes, and we're on pace to do even more here in 2022. So really excited about that, and want to introduce you guys to Kylie, and he's going to talk a little bit about potentially Loaves and Fishes and also some of their food rescue partners that are helping provide us with these ingredients that you're going to see at your site or potentially in some of the different outlets that we have. So Kylie?
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, the 4.4 million meals 2 years in a row comes from the ability to do such an extensive food rescue program. All of our meals come directly from food rescue. We do not purchase food in the hopes to be able to create a more sustainable environment as we pass food on to our guests. What does that look like? That looks like about 9 million pounds of food rescue. Wow. And what is food rescue? We do food rescue at every level of the food ecosystem. So we start out at the distribution manufacturer level, and we rescue foods that don't make it down to retail or distribution, and the overproduction, things that have been mislabeled, pallets that have been stacked or queued or upside down, or maybe a pallet jack hits it incorrectly and there's a damaged pallet, but the product is perfectly good. That's where we show up, and we're able to rescue all of that food. And then we follow the food literally through the entire food chain. So we follow it to all the different stops. And so that would be retailers at every different level, whether that's a grocery store, whether that's a restaurant, other individuals that are doing one-offs, private entities, and we rescue from them once they've either done one of two things, either production to the consumer or the retail process, and then we show up once again to inevitably try to prevent as much of that ending up into the waste system. It's a goal that is a benefit not only to our donor partners, to the environment, and everything in between to keep food costs down, giving them an ability to not have to spend more money on waste, what translates directly into the consumer's dollar on making food cheaper. So those are just some of the ways that food rescue impacts everybody and how we're able to capitalize on that. And then we take all of those areas from a farm. So when a farmer is going ahead and they produce their harvest, only a certain level of those grades are actually good for sale. So whether that's farmer market sale or to retail, and it still leaves grade B minus, C, D, and on, perfectly good food, but a retailer is not going to pick that up. So what do? You call Loaves and Fishes, and we show up and we bring that into one of our kitchens, and you have perfectly amazing food, colorful, fresh, homegrown food on our plates. Same with the food processing. So if that food leaves the farm, heads to a manufacturer, and is processed, we pick it up in one of two different ways, whether it's overage that is not going to make it into the food processing system, or it's the actual food processing system that doesn't go to retail for all of those reasons that I've listed before. So we rescue from that area. Restaurants go ahead and they yield out a certain amount of food in the prep kitchen that they're hoping to serve. Now, whether that's bulk commissary restaurant, like the industries in corporations, schools, fast casuals, or even your restaurants that you're sit-down dining, they have a level of waste that is available to the food rescue system that hasn't been served or touched by the consumer, and you'd be surprised how much comes out of that. And it's, again, great food, and the win here is that there's already been labor put into it, it's halfway prepped, and it's ready for our guests. And then the consumer, like I talked about at retail, produce, the retailer takes that produce or that non-perishable all the way up to a date, a best sell-by date, or produce has a certain shelf life, and instead of them having to have that product sorted out and then put into a dumpster, we take it, we're nimble, we put it in our kitchen, and a lot of times it's on a plate by the very next evening. So that's food rescue, Rob, in a nutshell.
Well, I appreciate it. So we have a couple of items here, and even a meal as an example. So maybe we can talk about some of this. So from a food rescue, or the chain of that food rescue, I know we talked about this in one of our last lessons, but this came from a local farmer. It's just a head of cabbage. Like you mentioned, sort of like the grading of the food, and we talked about this. Like just something as simple as that. A little scarring there, and just a little bit of decoloration, which we could do something great with this. Unfortunately, just can't make it to a restaurant or retail or whatever that looks like, and so we have the opportunity to sort of grab this, put it into our rescue chain, and then create a great meal with it. And I think, again, we talked about this. We would make sure that we would track this waste with our trim sense, but we could simply just cut that off and put it to great use, and we can turn this into a meal. So this came directly from the farm. I think that's that's pretty cool. How do you meet these farm partners?
So we have a few different networks: Fresh Food Connect, Farm Connect, that is a consolidation of national farms that are all the way from your home gardener that bought some seeds at a co-op or a Home Depot or your garden store, and they throw them back in the dirt and do their best, and they've decided that they didn't need 140 peppers. They only were looking to have 2, and now they're going to mold. We'll show up and actually pick those up, and everything in between, local farmer and even your industrial farmer. They all have 2 market needs. The scale may be a little bit different, but we're able to pick it up from them. And like you said, this is 90% savable with our waste sense.
Overproduction you mentioned, which is one of our trim sense tracking styles of waste. So overproduction even happens on that larger consumer type scale. So this is sort of a product that, although it looks like maybe a few more lemons than you might find in the grocery store, this maybe for like a retail or like a commercial food vendor or something like that.
Correct.
So this is potentially a product. I mean, this would be great if I got this in a kitchen. Like I've got 20 something lemons in here. It's not just one-off lemons, or maybe like a few cabbage. You're actually getting some products that are just sort of like ready for commercial kitchens, but somehow made it into this rescued food chain.
Right. So exactly, this is brand new product. This could have gone to retail and it would have been on the store floor, no different than anything else. Every distributor has a takeover a percentage higher than what the retailer would be purchasing. In the idea that when a retailer says, I need X amount of lemons, let's say they needed 10 bags of lemons, the distributor wants to make sure they have 10 bags of lemons on hand, so they stock 12 or whatever it is. Right. And so when the retailer shows up and picks up those bags of lemons, they give me a call and said, you know what, I got 5 bags of lemons. These aren't going to be good when the retailer reorders in 2 weeks, so now I have
So you have the opportunity to grab some of these.
Brand new lemons.
Wow. Okay, so this would kind of be like a little bit more of that commercial rescue. We talked about the farm. It just seems like there's so many different avenues. Like some of this stuff is actually coming in produced as well, which you mentioned. There's already some labor in it. I know I've seen stuff, from like prepared sandwiches already. And although, from a culinary perspective, we can't always like open those containers and put them back into a recipe, but how you also get those back out to the community as well, right? So you'll just repurpose those and get those back out as well.
Yeah, for sure. Are we speaking about the meals we see right here?
Yeah, I mean, so this would be an example of how we would take all of that stuff and bring it together. And so, just to kind of show you guys here, and this is going to be what we're actually going to do today. And so we have a couple of different things here that we've taken some of the products like what we've discussed, and we've turned it into a meal following some of our recipes and kind of turned it into something that would actually go out to the community. And so I believe here we have like a dirty rice. I see some cauliflower, some carrots, and I know I saw some carrots that were rescued back in the walk-in cooler earlier. And then it looks like the chicken is a togarashi crusted chicken, and I think we rescued
some togarashi
as well. So, is this a pretty typical meal of how you would take some of that food from the rescued food chain? And I mean, this looks like I would eat this for dinner. So tell me a little bit about that. Like,
Absolutely.
is this what I would expect, or
You just said it, Rob. This is something that we would eat for dinner. That's
There you
something
go.
that Loaves and Fishes prides itself on, is that we are serving meals that we feel like are available to every consumer at a restaurant. We would like to say that when you come to one of our meal sites, the only thing that changes from a restaurant is the price tag. There's no bill. So as far as like quality, as far as variety, as far as nutrition, as far as flavor, even experience, we like to set our to-goes up and our plates up, no different than you'd see at a restaurant.
Right.
Like, we want people to eat with their eyes. We want them to have a dignified experience. Like I said, the only thing different is that we're not handing them a bill at the end of the day. And these type of meals that you're seeing right here, Rob, like around a restaurant, or like I mentioned, like the corporations that have commissary kitchens, or the campus schools that are producing 600 portions every single day.
I saw about 600 of those in the kitchen here
exactly.
today.
On the hopes that 600 students may show up. It's sunny out. 400 of those students go out to lunch off campus. Now I'm showing up and picking up the other 400 portions. So
rescue even inside the program as well.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this really ties it together, and I think one of the biggest things, and you kind of mentioned this, is like it should just feel like any normal meal.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes there can be a stigma around rescued food, or a program that even serves rescued food. And I think one of the great things that we're going to be able to experience, and that you guys at home or in our kitchens are going to be able to experience, is the satisfaction of taking some of this rescued food, turning it back into something, and not only that, turning it into great food and putting it back out into the community. So now we're going to take that opportunity, get with your chef, your instructor, and you're going to take products just like this that are at your site, and we're going to turn them into a meal for the community. So you guys enjoy that process, have fun, and Kylie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
for this
Rob.
lesson. Thank you.